If you've been going through anxiety for quite some time now, you're probably a person that says that I have anxiety, that I suffer anxiety, that because of anxiety, I can't do X, Y, Z. And fundamentally, what you have there are what are beliefs, negative, limiting beliefs that will always hold you back, because ultimately those beliefs stem from an identity of a person who has anxiety. And as long as you identify and are always in that mindset of the person who has anxiety, then you'll always have anxiety, which only makes sense because, as an example, if you believe that you are stuck, that you don't know what to do, then yes, you will always be stuck. You always feel like you don't know what to do. And if you believe that life is hard, then yeah, life will always be hard. And if you believe that you have anxiety, then yes, you will always have anxiety. Or at the bare minimum, if you believe that you have anxiety, what I see time and time again is that even with a person who has the right tools and the right techniques, they are always held back. They have setbacks because they still act and behave with the identity of a person who has anxiety. In this video, really, we want to cover on how to shift those limiting beliefs so that you finally become that person that you've always wanted to be, so that you can be present in the moment, so that you can finally be your old self again. Again, you want to shift into that person so you can be normal again. Again, shift into that normal person who can be present, who can be just someone that lives life day to day and not just simply exists. Now, this is video 4 out of a 5-part mini-series on how to overcome anxiety. In the last video, we actually covered how to overcome what was the overthinking and worrying mind. So racing thoughts, intrusive thoughts, catastrophizing, whatever it may be, anything to do with the mind. That's in that video. But in this video, we are actually going to be covering what I said is beliefs. And actually, if you cover beliefs, this is a manner of being able to basically eliminate any kind of self-doubt, any fear, any worry caused because of a limiting belief. So actually, for the overthinking and worrying mind, this only adds to benefit onto that. So you really want to stay in tune. But the more important thing is just this thing of shifting identity, shifting beliefs such that you now have certainty of overcoming anxiety even before you actually do it. And that's the actual goal and that's the aim. You want to be the person who's overcome anxiety already before you've actually done it. So my name is Kevin Sage, and this is something that I very much done myself. And I remember back when I was going through my initial anxiety. So I've been through anxiety 4 separate times. I've been through what is, yes, anxiety and panic attacks. I've been through phobia, intrusive thoughts. I've been through trauma. I've been through stress and worry, like constant cycles, same patterns. And it was that first instance of anxiety where I didn't know how to overcome anxiety, but I done it. And how did I do it? Because I shifted my beliefs. In that moment in time, no, I did not have the tools. In what I've discussed in this mini-series so far about, the body, the nervous system, emotional wounds, all of that I had no idea of. So I was just going off of the basis of what I did have instead, which was a shift in my beliefs. Because ultimately I got a mentor and I was just kind of, starting my personal development journey at that moment in time. And it was just the first time that someone allowed me to believe that this doesn't have to be my life, that I can do something about it, that I could choose to live my life differently. And that's the primary thing that we have to remember, because yes, you here watching this, you are choosing to still live with anxiety. And I know that may sound harsh, but let me get into, again, beliefs, and you start understanding why, right? But that's exactly what I was doing. I just was choosing to stay stuck, and that's how I felt, and that's how I lived my life until someone said otherwise. And when I was able to shift those beliefs, I was able to then progress and just know that I can make a change. And so I did make a change. And this actually went full circle on my fourth kind of phase of anxiety, which again was just the stress and worry. Like I noticed again that I'd been, I knew all the stuff. I recovered time and time again. And I was thinking, why do I still worry? Why am I still anxious? Why am I still feeling the way I do, still feeling tense and not just living my life present today? And that's where I looked for more answers. And Lord behold, yes, it came back full circle to what are beliefs, where I understood that there is no reason, absolutely zero reason you should ever have what is anxiety or even any negative feelings, right? So at the end of the day, if you feel sad, if you feel guilt, if you feel so many emotions that are negative, anger, etc., this is, again, a limiting belief that's making you feel this way. And we're going to definitely dive in. But all in all, once I discovered about beliefs and how really that's all that was holding me back, I focused on that and I tried to uncover every single unconscious belief I had. There's so many, but I literally tackled one by one what it was. And by flipping the switch, by going from negative belief to positive belief, I was able to rapidly just eliminate the stress and worry that I was having in that moment in time and finally just beat the cycle. I actually understood where it was coming from. And then I had certainty. I eliminated my self-doubt. I eliminated my fear. And I just lived my life with certainty, therefore being able to live daily with presence and always in the moment. So how did I actually do this then? Well, this is what I want to bring to your attention, what is cognitive alignment. So we've looked into somatic reprogramming, emotional reparenting, which is all to do with trauma and the body and emotional wounds, okay? But now we're going to look into, again, beliefs, cognitive realignment, realigning our beliefs back into what we want it to be, which is from negative to positive. So what are beliefs? In a nutshell, beliefs are nothing more than stories that we tell ourselves. A belief is a story. As an example, very small one, right? You know, when example, like you get angry at someone and you say, oh, you always do that. You always. When you do that, again, usually it's said with frustration, usually it's said with, some kind of negativity, but there is a belief there. When you say always, the fact is that is not actually true. You always arrive late. Very simple example, right? But when you say this thing, it's like always 100% of the time, this person's always arrived late, or has it just happened enough times where it feels that way? And ultimately you say always and create a story that it literally is always. You feel that it literally is always. It's not. Again, it's a story. So let's use an example I want to talk about for kind of like demonstration purposes, but let's think about I'm stuck. Technically, this is in my first instance of anxiety, that was one of the major beliefs that were reframed for myself, right? So as an example, it was I'm stuck, and then my mentor goes to me, well, Kev, like unless you have cement neck high up to your neck, you're never stuck. But I'm like, but I'm stuck. Right? He's like, well, I can see that you can move. Are you really stuck? And he just had me questioning things, right? And I was just like, well, okay, I get what you mean. At the end of the day, he was just reframing things for me, which is like, technically, no, I'm not stuck. Like, is that 100% true? No, it's not. Ultimately, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not stuck. So maybe I can do things. Maybe, again, as long as I'm not stuck, I can always, look at the next opportunity. I can always look at the next entry point to achieve X, Y, Z. So at the end of the day, they're just stories. That's all they are. But it's very important to understand fundamentally that when we have a belief, the thing is, a belief, we perceive it as, oh, it's just in our head, it's in our thoughts, right? But as I said, when you believe something, you don't just simply believe it, right? You feel it. What happens is that you basically have what I like to call an emotional charge behind it. You feel that you're stuck, okay? You believe you're stuck, but you feel that you're stuck, truly, right? If you actually looked at it, it's just like, yeah, I feel that I'm stuck. If you believe that life is hard, right? You feel that weight. It feels hard. There's always an emotional charge behind the belief, always. And let's take this to examples of anxiety. If I go out, I think that I'm gonna have a panic attack, right? If I go out, I'll have a panic attack. That's the belief, right? But you literally feel that that's gonna happen, okay? But there's always, again, that fear element is an emotional charge. So no matter what the belief is, there's always emotional charge behind it. This, you must understand at a fundamental level that the beliefs, the stories that drive you are driving you because that emotional charge, guess what? That's in the nervous system. That is in the body. And this is why ultimately what you think, right, can never override what you feel. So the fundamental question we have to ask is, okay, but where did this emotional charge stem from? Or again, where is it rooted? So as you know, everything I do here is to do with emotions and nervous system. And yes, in life, something always happens. Something happens. And what the nervous system does is that when that experience is had, again, there's usually something that occurs and it just says, oh, I remember that. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to store this in evidence, right, in my own local library for you. So that the next time something similar to that happens, I'm just going to send you this emotional charge to warn you and just, yeah, like protect you essentially. When it comes to, again, the examples we've given, I'm stuck, right, or life is hard. You've experienced life in a certain way, right? And maybe it's a one-off, like really high intensity, you felt something and therefore you really remember it. Or maybe it's just little things after a long while, especially with anxiety recovery. You've tried everything, you say, right? And that's another belief. You've tried everything. If you really tried everything, well, as an example, you wouldn't be here watching this video, right? Most people don't try a lot of the stuff that I do. So it's not that you tried everything. You've tried a lot of things for sure, but not the thing that works. But I digress. Going back to the experiences, yes, you feel stuck, right? Because you've just been through a lot. So again, the nervous system is just remembering this, right? Lodging it into memory, and it just creates the story. It just summarizes it as, I'm stuck. You tried so much that, yeah, this is it. This is it for us. Life is hard, same thing. The panic attack example of, hey, if I leave the house, I have a panic attack. So it's just the same thing. You experience that panic attack, and then yes, to protect you, the nervous system just says, hey, I don't want that happening again. Here's an emotional charge, right? To make you believe that it will happen again, and let's just avoid that. So again, it's evidence. Everything that the nervous system does is it gathers evidence of past experiences, and it's just stored at a body level. So again, I remind you, this is why you cannot outthink what you feel in the body. Because at the end of the day, yes, you don't just believe that you're stuck, you feel that you're stuck. You don't believe that that life is hard, you feel life is hard. And you don't just believe that you have anxiety, right? You feel that you have anxiety. Evidence that always brings forth this emotional charge that makes you believe and create a certain story around your situation, your circumstances, people. Like obviously I've limited what I've said in terms of certain beliefs, but this spans everything in life, literally everything. And what is really dangerous with this is that a lot of these beliefs are actually unconscious. Unconscious, as in you are not aware of it. So even when I went through my own process, I was just like, oh, I did not realize I believed, life was like this, as an example. So now that we actually understand like what a belief is, how it impacts us, and again, the true impact is you have to understand this is why even if you have the right tools and techniques, your beliefs create self-doubt. They create uncertainty. They create fear. They create worry. Right? This is again, when you have anxiety, yes, you lose your confidence basically. And so you go at it with anxiety recovery with a lack of confidence. And this lack of confidence, lack of certainty in yourself, in the process, is ultimately what makes you self-doubt and basically have setbacks. And it just makes recovery slower because you put yourself in a very negative cycle of self-doubt, all caused because of these negative beliefs, these stories that you invent that just feel true. And that's the core thing here. But the thing is, ultimately, when you go through things like CBT, the CBT or any kind of like, you could journal your thoughts and try like sort things out. But again, what you're doing here is that you're rationalizing with your thoughts, right? Again, the belief, you're like, okay, life is hard. No, like life is not hard, right? Like it's fine, it's easy. And again, this is in alignment with positive affirmations too, right? Everything that you're trying to do to say like the belief is not true, that's a rationalization. That is a reframe. Again, initially when I went through my my first recovery, technically that was a reframe, right? It was a very rough road. Like it was bumpy basically for me. I didn't have this massive certainty. I went on my, like feeling good Sundays, and then I'd had massive dips thinking like, what the actual hell? So like at the end of the day, when it comes to CBT and positive affirmations, all of this, you're not actually tackling where the root problem is, which is here. It's right here. It's in this emotional charge, right? Because again, it's rooted in the body. You feel the belief. You don't just simply think the belief. So if you don't tackle the emotion, nothing actually happens. And even with things like, for example, hypnotherapy. Now, hypnotherapy, in terms of reprogramming the mind, like technically it's doing it right. But the problem is, like, hypnotherapy will just say, get you into that relaxed stance, and then basically just say, okay, you're confident, you can do anything, and etc., etc. The problem is that when it's trying to do this, you are basically, yes, what you're technically doing is elevating the emotional state into a positive charge, believing or feeling that you are confident, that you are relaxed, that you can do this, that you're capable. And let's say that emotional charge was like this high, right? The issue is that what happens if the emotional charge from the negative belief, right? The one that says, I'm stuck, I can't do this, I'm not confident, whatever it may be. What if it's up here? If it's up here, then can you see this negative charge outweighs this positive charge from whatever could be, even the hypnotherapy or wherever it comes from. It's just not going to work. The nervous system is too wired, it's too ingrained, it's too resistant to this this influence or this suggestion of, hey, no, I am confident, I am capable. So as long as that exists, as long as that emotional charge is super high, then nothing can actually convince the nervous system that, hey, that the belief is not true. So this is the problem. This is why CBT doesn't work. This is why hypnotherapy doesn't work, because they're not understanding fundamentally there's always an emotional charge. There's like anxiety recovery, or just us as people, like we always just carry emotions, and it's all about emotions. What you need to do is you need to clear this emotion first, because you don't clear the emotion, then you cannot reprogram effectively, right, with the new. It does, again, I'm not going to say hypnotherapy doesn't work for no one. I'm not saying that CBT doesn't work for no one, but it doesn't work for everyone. And this is the reason why. Because no one actually addresses this root issue right here, which is the negative emotional charge that is still ingrained in the nervous system. How do we fix this? Okay, so that's the actual question. How on earth do we actually fix this? Well, it's really as simple as this. So if our negative belief, if the stories are coming from a negative emotional charge, right? Well, very simple. Make it a positive emotional charge, from negative to positive emotions, and it will flip the switch. Now, the question is, how do we actually do that? And it's a great question. So remember, I said before that the nervous system, how it even creates this in the first place, is because it starts storing basically an evidence bank, right? A library of evidence saying that this thing happened and I don't want to experience this again. So let me develop this for you, right? Self-doubt, fear, worry, the emotions behind it, so that we don't have to deal with that again. So when that happens, well, that's the clue right there. So what we need to do is just create evidence of the opposite. Going back to the example of I'm stuck. I'm stuck. What's the complete opposite of that? I'm not stuck. You gather evidence to say that I am not stuck. And this is the key thing. Yes, we're gathering evidence. So you could go, for example, and look at your own life and be like, well, actually, when I thought I was stuck, I actually got through it by doing this. I was able to figure things out when I done that. Okay, that's evidence of your own life or your own experiences. I can't overcome anxiety, right? How do you gather evidence of I can overcome anxiety? Well, even if it's not in your own life, you can compare it to other people who have recovered and know through evidence that, well, they've done it, so surely so can I. Surely so can I. And basically with the evidence, we're just looking for any clue, any information, any possibility from anywhere. This could obviously be with your own evidence of life. This could be your own, of your own life, sorry. This could be evidence of someone else's life, or this could be evidence through just concepts that you know. Even just from me explaining this, it's like, okay, you don't know anyone maybe who's gone through the exact same process that I'm explaining right now, but as I'm explaining this, I'm like, well, this starts to make more sense. Then surely, just through knowing this, there's evidence that this is possible, that I can overcome this. So the idea here is that we're gathering evidence, but this is the real key, because the thing is, you can't just gather evidence and just say, I know it. I know this is possible. You need to feel this is possible, because the key thing is always about emotions. And the idea here is that you're driving such a powerful emotional state that the nervous system has no choice but to kind of give up and just think, or feel even, wow, like, yeah, you're right. I can't be stuck. Like, it's not possible to be stuck, because I feel like we're fluid. I feel that all the doors of opportunity are open to me. I feel that. So the key thing here is that when you look for evidence, you need to really embody it. You need to envision it. So I, even go through visualizations with my own clients and make sure that you're painting the scenario in your mind so clear, so vividly, that your body has no choice but to feel the real emotions that are developed like that. At the end of the day, your mind cannot distinguish between what is reality and what is imagined. And so when you do these things, you're really ingraining things at a deep core emotional level that penetrates into the body, that penetrates and again convinces that nervous system, hey, that you can let go of this, because this is the true feeling of reality. Now, when you do that, that's when basically, yes, the negative charge disappears and you go into the positive charge. So as a very clear example, even for myself, small one, right? But it's very clear, and it's the first time when I got into this kind of like belief shifting element, I was like, okay, like this is how it works and this is amazing. So I was walking the dog with my girlfriend, And I just noticed how I was a bit stressed out. And at the end of the day, I was just like, why? Like, at the end of the day, yes, the dog is not well behaved, and I just didn't want to take the dog, and we're here. But I'm like, why is it such a big deal? And at that moment in time, I was like, no, any negativities, it should be zero. There's no reason for me to feel frustrated or stressed out or anxious, worried, etc. Right? So I was literally tackling anything that would, basically develop this emotional charge. And in this case, it was still like frustration, right? There's still emotion. I feel frustrated. And I was just like, but why do I feel frustrated? Why? I go into it very quickly. This is all done within 1 minute, by the way. But I go into it and I couldn't really figure it out. So I asked myself, okay, Kev, well, what happens if you take the lead? If you take the dog's lead, would that make you feel better instead of your girlfriend taking the dog? If you took it, would that make you feel better? I was like, well, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. But why though? Why would that make you feel better? I just answered, well, because I just feel like I have more control of it. Again, the dog is not the best behaved, and it just makes me feel like I have control over the dog a bit more. And I was thinking, okay, but then why does that make you feel so frustrated? Like, okay, you have more control over the dog. Why does that make you feel better though? Like, why are you again this big thing around it? And then ultimately, why I answered was like, because honestly, everything else is out of my control, right? Because everything else is in my control. And the dog is just the one thing that if I could just control, that makes me feel better. And that was the key. I hadn't noticed that, again, the frustration was really coming from, I don't have control over my life, literally life. That, again, everything is just happening to me and it's just chaos and it's all bad. Like nothing I do works, basically. And as I was talking about this, I was noticing the emotional charge of like, truly, I was feeling I don't have control over my life. And then I just basically again, went into the process. I found evidence for the contrary, right? So in other words, I always have control over my life, right? That's the thing. I always have control over my life. So I looked for evidence, and it was just very simple evidence of, well, Kev, when I applied for a job, that was you, right? You put steps in and you got the job, yes or no? So you had control there, yes? Yes. When you got your first coaching clients, right? Or when you get coaching clients, that's you, right? You're putting in the work and you're doing things and you're controlling that, are you not? And I was like, yes, that's true. Yeah, and so when you do this and when you do, and I just went through instances of my life of evidence and really feeling that experience of like, that's so freaking true. Like I done that, I freaking done that. And again, there was this excitement, this emotion. Again, this is all emotions. Again, you have to feel these things. And I felt these things. I was like, yeah, of course. I control my life every single day, every single choice, every single decision. I control that. The self-doubt eliminated, pure certainty. And basically what happened was that belief of I can't control my life, or my life is out of control, completely gone in the span of a minute or maybe two, whatever it was. It was super, super quick. And I'd done this just like while I was walking the dog and everything. Like it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. But I want to use that example so that you're super clear again, like how this works. And there are definitely other ways of doing it. I'm using this example so that you understand. But as I said, the core thing here is just you find evidence. You find evidence to say the contrary of the negative belief. Now, this is the super key thing, because the trick here, like this is a great tool for sure. And it's again, like the only two things that you have to be aware of and why this is so hard is because yes, it's simple in nature, but there's going to be two blocks. Number one, the sheer number of negative beliefs that you will have will be astounding, right? When I went into it, it was one thing after another. And as I said, these things are sometimes unconscious, again, because it lives in the nervous system. At that point in time, no way did I ever think, right, that I was someone who lacked confidence. No way did I think that that I felt truly I had no control over my life, right? I truly felt that. And I didn't know that until that very moment when something so small as walking a dog created something so big as my life is out of control. I don't control my life. Nothing's good happening to me. It's out of my hands kind of thing. Sheer number of hidden unconscious beliefs. Again, this is what keeps us stuck, because you are acting, behaving, thinking like a person who is driven by your nervous system in these unconscious beliefs that you are not aware of. So when you do have whatever, uncertainty, doubt, worry, fear, frustrations, anger, whatever it may be, these are always again, rooted in something that you're just not aware of that is still in the body. Now, that's number one, right? So again, it's just because you might tackle one conscious belief that you're aware of and then don't realize something else is running the show. So the idea is yeah, you need to scan everything. Now, number two, and this is the trickier one. Remember when I explained about an emotional charge being this high and an emotional charge being this low, right? Negative emotional charge here, positive emotional charge here. It's not going to do it. And yes, even in my process, what I was feeling this is basically was felt as resistance, where I'm like trying to be basically shift the belief, shift it into positivity. But there's this resistance. I'm like, I'm not convinced. Again, you feel this in the body. And if you don't feel it, if there's no flow, it means it's not working. But it's not working. Why? Because the emotional charge, what's ingrained in the body, is just too big. So what do we do here when it's too big, when that resistance is so high? Well, what is this emotional charge if it's really, really big? Starts with T. Starts with T. Trauma, right? Unprocessed emotions. Emotions so big that and so repressed sometimes that, again, they're stuck in the body. But this is the beautiful thing, because ultimately this is kind of, bringing everything that we've done together into full circle, which is, remember, we are doing or have learned about somatic reprogramming, right? Somatic reprogramming and emotional reparenting. That's a P. Somatic reprogramming and emotional reparenting deal with trauma. When you feel a negative charge that is really high, you just have to either use the body to release tension and stress and what's, again, built up here, that survival energy. Or if it's more to do with emotions as well, even though somatic reprogramming does cover that as well, you go here and you reparent that emotion. You reparent that part of you that was locked away, that was buried away, such that you clear the trauma, such that you clear the emotional charge. And once that emotional charge has cleared, it's easy because now you're in a neutral space. Now you use cognitive alignment to, again, bring evidence, raise the emotional state, and basically create a new positive belief around your situation or circumstances. This is ultimately why this is so effective, because this works every time, so long as you know how to process stresses, tensions, emotions, whatever it may be, basically, aka trauma, aka survival, stress, energy, emotional wounds, all of this. And it's why, again, if you haven't watched these videos, by the way, I would definitely recommend watching them, because this will make more sense on basically we are just leveraging the body and everything that we have so that we process what was unprocessed so long ago. Or I say so long ago, again, it doesn't mean you go all the way into your past. Like, it's not that. It's just whatever's in the body, whatever comes up, especially with beliefs, and you're trying to overcome belief, you will be met by resistance. At the end of the day, to achieve your goal, basically all you're trying to look at is, where do I have resistance? If you eliminate the resistance, you will always prevail. Makes sense, right? To get your desired outcome is you take action, and make sure you take action with non-resistance, no resistance, meaning there should be no negative emotional charge, only positive or neutral at worst. And when you do that, you end up, yes, bringing certainty about yourself, saying that you can do anything, that you are no longer a person with anxiety, that, hey, I'm just a person. I am me. I am someone who lives life present every single day. Wherever it may be for you that, again, keeps you stuck through a negative belief, this is ultimately what is holding you back, right? This is the fundamentals of, again, belief shifting. What you want to do is shift every single belief so that you have full certainty within yourself, where you eliminate, again, the worry, fear, doubt, all of it. And again, if the emotional charge is too high, that's okay. Because now we just used what we have learned in the previous videos to process, again, those traumas, which is, again, just unprocessed emotion. It's not a big thing. It really doesn't have to be that big. And then once you do, that's it. The formula is unlocked for you to live your life happy, like genuinely happy. So, bit of a long video, but that kind of summarizes cognitive realignment now. And no matter what belief you have, whether it's I'm broken, whether it's I'm not good enough, whether it's, again, like I don't know if I can do this, I'm stuck, life is hard, like whatever it is, this is ultimately how you eliminate it. So that basically, again, I know you're someone that just wants to be your old self again, that just simply wants to live your life like any normal person can. This is how you do it. It's always beliefs holding you back. Every single time. It is like, take it as Bible. As long as you eliminate or clear the limiting beliefs, clear the negative charges behind the limiting belief, that's when you can progress and actually start living your life. Now, that's it for this training. In the next video that we're going to do to kind of like wrap everything up is, yes, we're going to go through the whole shebang to kind of like summarize and put everything into perspective for you so that you know how to use these frameworks or constructs in the right way to ultimately create the life you want, a life anxiety-free, a life that you're no longer plagued by anxiety, that you overcome anxiety finally. And yeah, we're just going to put this all together so that you know exactly, again, why this is so effective and why I truly believe with the psychosomatic conditioning method, you can overcome any anxiety you have, no matter what your circumstances is, no matter your situation, past, your nervous system, current, state of emotional regulation. This is how you overcome anxiety. So let's get to it in the next video.